everybody, and welcome to another edition of Northern Consultations. I am joined by Daniel, and today we have, hands down, one of the greatest players to ever play in the Schmodown, the Sneider himself, Jeff Sneider. How are you doing today, my man?
I am wonderful, boys. Thanks for having me. I'm psyched to be here.
Yeah, us too. And not gonna lie, when that conversation happened last week, we were freaking out.
Oh, please. I'm a nobody.
Not to us, you're not. Not to us.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
See, I got a little nervous about it because I kind of taunted you with my message.
I was going to say, what are you nervous about? You're the one with running your mouth.
And then, I was just like, oh, you've never been on our show. And then I just, immediately get a message from Jeff Sneider, and I was like, oh, what have I done?
You know why he was lippy? You know why he was lippy? He lives in Montreal. You're in Boston.
Yeah. There's a natural rivalry, the Canadiens.
Yes,
but
some of the bloodiest matches I've ever seen.
Listen, my thing as a go-getter, as a fellow go-getter and reporter, closed mouths don't get fed, Daniel. So you open your mouth, here I am.
I guess that's how it works, yeah.
Yeah, it's you know what, a great way to end the year, to be honest. So we're just gonna start off right off the bat. How did your path cross with the movie trivia Schmodown?
I mean, Christian was someone who I had beef with because he was scooping me over at the Schmoes Know website back in the day, using his old Joel Silver connection to do it.
Understandable.
And so we just had a mutual friend who reached out and put us together. We had lunch together. I started to learn what the Schmoes were all about and kind of fell in love with Christian and that whole crew. And saw that they were doing the Schmodown and was honored that Christian asked me to be a part of it because it kind of was right in my sweet spot of theatrics and trivia, you know?
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've noticed because my very first time watching was Spectacular 1. So I got it right off the bat, and to see you guys, you and JT as the Patriots embracing the heel, Roca being the outlaw, it's like, oh man, this is where I belong.
Yeah, the first couple times, you're there for the trivia. You don't want to lose the matches. And then eventually you get on their wavelength and you realize you can see the bigger picture and what Christian's trying to do in building this league and this, the various storylines. And so you either buy into that or you don't. Mm-hmm. And I did in a big way. And I thought I was kind of a natural for, what he was putting together.
Right on. And so because you've pretty much been around since the start of the Collider era, what do you think is attributed to your longevity in the Schmodown?
I mean, I think I know my stuff on one hand. I think I like the competition. I mean, particularly this year, it's like, normally I'm out there playing basketball with Nost once a week. I haven't seen the kids since last March. So this is the only way for me to even indulge that competitive side of myself this past season, at least. But I've also been very fortunate to be, paired with guys like JT and Andraco who, we've had great success. If I didn't have that early success, I may have been discouraged and just walked away from the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just glad your first match with Berto didn't set the stage for your career. Woo!
That was a fun one.
That was definitely as a fan. Yeah, Daniel, do you have anything to ask him? He's gonna bear with him. He's got a little bit of delay.
Speaking of, sorry. Just speaking of some of your matches, I was doing some homework, obviously, and
good.
I noticed in the last couple of years, you have only faced tough opponents, and you come out with a more than winning record in every season that I'm looking at. It's really impressive. Singles, teams, doesn't matter. You're definitely one of the best players, and you don't do all this homework and wheel specific mind games and all that the kids play, as you'd say.
I have my own unique brand of mind games.
Yeah.
Thank you for wearing a shirt today, by the way.
Thank you. That one works on some teams better than others.
Yeah, I can tell.
Okay. He couldn't demonetize us. We're not monetized.
That is true. That is 100% true. So, what has been the biggest adjustment this year? Like, I mean, how different has it been? Other than we're
I
on
mean,
camera.
I certainly had to shake off some. I feel like some early losses in the season. But virtual wise, I don't know. Like you have to pay close attention to the question. I mean, not that you didn't before, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just a comfort thing. You don't have the hot lights of the studio. You don't have like an audience sort of watching you because sometimes that's like the tough thing is when they ask a question, maybe you don't know it, and you see everybody whispering in the audience. Oh, like this person, this person, So maybe without the distractions, it's helped a little bit.
So the transition was fairly easy for you then.
I mean, I'd like to think so. Yeah, I would say, wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, I definitely would, because there are some players I've noticed this year. It seems like they're not quite comfortable with the digital age.
I mean, you got to adapt or die, and that's the thing. Like, yes, this was a different type of season than the past, but you look at the pro sports leagues, like you just have to roll with the punches, and maybe you can put an asterisk on things if you really want, but I just think we're all playing under the same rules, and so it was fair for everybody.
And I found the only real difficult part of it was like kind of having to wait for the question to be read whenever you ask for a repeat. Because normally as a team, you'd just be sitting there and your conversation wouldn't break. That is just extra time. And it did like kind of disconnect a couple of different teams, and you have to like keep that train of thought while the question goes.
I mean, yeah, listen, there were definitely differences, obviously, with the teams in round two, not being able to see your opponents round two, and you just sort of like get the report card at the end of it. I mean, if I watched a team just get 12 straight points, like Andrejko and I happened to for a few matches there, I don't know, like that would maybe be some like an increased layer of intimidation. And so I don't know that you necessarily got that. I don't know. I think I can get in your head when I am next to you. And maybe I lost a little bit of that behind a computer screen.
I don't know, man. Some of the get-ups you wore during the matches were a great way to get into people's head. I'll never forget that one jacket you wore. Oh God, what it looked pretty small on you. It's all I can remember.
Okay, I think I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
And considering we've always been watching it through a screen anyway, whether or not you've been changed on how you can get into your opponent's head, you're still working for all of the audience the same way you always have.
Sure, no, you're on camera. I mean, it's picking up everything, like rather than, you're kind of cutting to different people. Like we're all just here. And so you can read every emotion. And I understand that, a lot of people felt in that finals match, like I had given up or they didn't like my body language or something. It's like, how am I supposed to feel after that round 4? Like, should I be sitting here with a smile on my face? Like if I was playing basketball and I was down and I'd screwed up, maybe I'd apply a little full court pressure and I'd get angry. You can't do that. So, yeah, I was definitely disappointed in beating myself up. But to say I give up, like we got all the questions right in round 5. So I don't understand that argument.
Well, let's get into it. And yes, folks, we are going to go to spoiler territories here for the spectacular. But my God, what an ending to that match. Like, no joke. There was, myself included, I was like, oh man, this is not going to go well. And lo and behold, holy shit. Like, that was probably the most emotional match I've seen all year.
It was a wild one, that's for sure. I mean, when we were down 6 heading into round 3, like, yeah, I have a lot of respect for Shazam. I thought we were dead in the water. I thought we were going to lose, same as everybody else out there. Like, oh, it's just going to – might even – like, they were talking about a TKO before the round. They're like, well, we'll see if the Ogle can avoid the TKO. I mean, but, as other people said in the comments and whatnot, that's why you play the full game. That's why you play all 60 minutes of a football game. That's why you play all 48 minutes of a basketball game. Like, every question matters. And I'm sorry that I'm not denying it. Their questions were harder than ours in round 3. Like, they just were. pick some sexier numbers next time. Like I tell you, like that's not my fault. And you can have beef with the question writers, but I think Bibbs is right when he said, if you want to be called the movie trivia champion of the world, you got to be ready to answer any question.
Yeah, 100%. And you guys definitely did. Now, because of how emotional this one was, does it mean more to you than the first win with Mark, or does that first one still bring pretty high?
That first one with Mark was pretty emotional because I think like Mark hadn't been a champion to that point, right? Yeah. So that was getting Mark his first one and proving that we could do it, that we were, on the same level or tier at least as
or Paige,
the Patriots, and that we had enough like that chemistry, that we belonged in the record books. And I mean, this one was certainly special, obviously, to get my third, to get Andreyko his second. I certainly don't want my accomplishment to overshadow his, particularly because he really did, I feel like, sort of put me on his shoulders in that last match. I think I did well with Ron Howard and maybe saved us those points on the Gary Sinise question. But he obviously got 1 point better in round one. I relied on him for the Henson stuff in round three. He had a much better round four, and round five, like he showed up. Like Andreyko showed up this season. And I tip my cap to him, and I tip my cap to Roxy for keeping me focused and keeping me in it.
Yeah, and that you guys did definitely touch on that in the post-match, just how she said, like, don't worry about it, you guys got this, right? Like, she had to have been integral to that win.
I mean, that's the thing. Yes, I can get in my head. It doesn't mean that I am giving up or quitting by any means, but I was definitely beating myself up after round four. And I want to talk to you guys more about round three and round four.
Of course.
But that is the brilliance of Roxy Stryer as a manager, is that she can, when she sees you going off track or whatever, she can steer you back on the path. And if I didn't have someone like that, I don't know that I would have had the success that I had in these tournaments and this season overall. I really think that just as an in-game manager, she is second to none. And even though she didn't win the faction war, she also played far fewer games, which isn't about her. The games that she had to manage, she managed brilliantly. And she ended up with most titles at the end of the season, which is the goal of playing the Schmodown. It's not to win matches, it's to win the matches that count.
Shit, you're right. I didn't actually think about that. Yeah, rock stars do have the most titles. Holy shit.
Yeah. And she was the entire first half of Spectacular. It was pretty awesome, honestly. And I mean, obviously, this means a lot for the Odd Couple, but for you, it's your third team's title, and you're the only person who can say you have 3 wins at the team's title. And that is very impressive, not to mention your first title had an 8-win streak in it. 9-win streak. I don't even know how you find 2 different players that gel so well with you, and you must just know so much in this game. And do you want to talk about?
I mean, I think that I was fortunate enough to be paired with 2 players who really complemented my weaknesses. And I know that I have weaknesses. I don't think that I am, as an individual, as good as maybe Adam Collins is at movie trivia. But I think that, I don't think of us as super teams either. That's the thing. People are like, oh, Bateman's a free agent now, and what if it was Bateman and Oyama? And they're creating these super teams. I don't think of myself as, maybe now in some people's eyes, because people, I've had success in this league. But when I formed with JT, when I formed the Patriots, that wasn't like, oh my God, these 2 mega powers are getting together. When it was Sneider forming with Andreyko, it was 2, maybe B+ players, right, coming together. I don't think either that the fans regarded either of us as being A-level players. And so that is what I think is sort of the most impressive accomplishment of it all, is that you have guys who maybe weren't champions in their own right, who together form a championship core.
So you've been part of two really good teams in two different eras. Pretty much the best team of the early years in the Patriots, and one of the best teams going now with the Odd Couple. What is the difference between the two eras to you?
I mean, certainly there's a lot of competition now. Like, I mean, I don't think you can really argue with that, but I also don't want to diminish the competition that I faced.
Oh God, no.
In the early years, because those were some killer pairings, and I actually think that the questions were harder. I think that the questions have gotten easier. Maybe not the 5-pointers as we've seen, particularly my opponents, but. I got lucky with 5-pointers this year. I'll get it. But I do think that the questions overall, particularly, rounds 1 and 2, they were harder those early seasons than they are now. Maybe I'm just saying that because I have all this experience. I know what to expect. But it does seem like my percentage has gotten better as the league has opened up.
It does make a little bit of sense, because looking back at the earlier seasons, I was watching your match against what was the team? Wolves of Steel. And
that's how long ago that was.
Yeah. Well, I was watching it earlier today. I should have remembered. But looking at that match and the matches today, you find a lot less context clues in the questions. But today's questions have more of those clues, but hit a much wider array of movies, which is why you can see some people who could compete at a very high level back then and aren't competing in the wide, vast majority of films that are being covered now.
I mean, that may be a function of who's writing the questions.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't know if it started, like, I know Skaliski was sort of like the main writer before PJ. Maybe I don't even know if Skaliski's still doing the questions or not. I have no idea. Like, I know PJ writes the questions, but I don't know if Chris is involved or not, or what happened to Chris. But it seemed like Christian and Mark were writing the questions early on. So I think it's just a function of the writing staff. And the more diverse that writing staff is, then the more different types of movies they're going to ask about. I still, I've obviously had very public, loud beef with the types of movies that are asked about, because I do feel that they are, you just know, like Edge of Tomorrow, which was the 5-pointer in the finals match.
Yep.
That's a schmodown movie.
Yeah, like that was a hard ass 5-pointer. Holy
it
shit.
Totally was. But I'm just saying, like, if you gave me a list of movies, like 100 movies, I would pick out the 10 movies that are most likely to be asked about on the Schmodown. And that, to me, is a problem. That it feels a little predictable, because I see, like I said, 200 movies a year. Maybe 125 of those are indies, and the other 75 are the ones that we're focused on in the Schmodown, the mainstream studio movies.
So what you're saying is you would like to see way more diversity in the types
Right.
of movies that,
Indie movies, which again are 60% of the market, basically, are relegated to a slice on the wheel. Festival darlings.
Yeah.
And you rarely hear about them. I mean, we all know what is a Schmodown movie and what is not.
Yeah.
I think. So with Edge of Tomorrow, I felt like that is a tough question, no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But anyone who's seen that movie 2, maybe 3 times, which isn't unreasonable for that film, would get that answer. So, like the same way I know Tom Sizemore's nickname in Heat. It's a small detail, but if you are a fan of that film and you've seen it multiple times, you would probably get it.
Yeah,
and
that's probably me and the Mighty Ducks.
And I haven't talked to Bibbs or the kid and asked them, well, how many times have you seen Edge of Tomorrow? I bet you they both only saw it one time.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guess. Same with me, because I didn't think it was that great. That was overrated.
Really? I saw it the one time myself, and I thought it was actually fun, but not enough my want to rewatch.
The first half was good, and the second half, it just went off the rails. Like I didn't like the third act at all of Edge of Tomorrow.
I might be mixing this up with another film.
Oblivion?
Is that the Groundhog Day one?
Yes, Edge of Tomorrow is the Groundhog Day.
Okay. I don't think I finished that movie, but I couldn't really tell you because it was the same scene over and over again.
Again, no doubt a tough question, but like I said,
Yeah.
if you've seen it multiple times, I think it's gettable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like to go back to what you said, like that's a Schmoedown movie. Do you think they skewed that way more for the accessibility? I guess.
Yes, there's no question that the movies. I mean, like I said, in the quality of the questions, which I think the questions have gotten easier in round 1 and round 2. I think that is all about accessibility, and it is opening up to more people, playing at home, who like playing along. They want to feel like they are smart and they're getting the answers or whatever. They don't just want to be like, if I was the game master and I was PJ, I'd be writing questions that are like trying to stump everybody all the time. And that doesn't necessarily make for the most fun kind of game. That goes for that makes for the I'm so much smarter than you game, but it's not that entertaining. You want to see people get things right.
Yeah, I think it should be a mixture of both, to be honest. I mean, you definitely need those questions that stump people, i.e., like we just said, that Edge of Tomorrow question. That will stump a lot of people.
And it is a mixture. It is a mixture, but the problem for the fans is that the mixture is different in every match. Not every match is this 85-15% mixture. Sometimes it's 86-14, and they're like, well, it wasn't fair.
Yeah, and you would need to have like a sort of, and it would take so much like configuration as well as like kind of thought put into it, like to have a like complicated question in the first round and a complex question in the second round, and then the third round they do pretty well with complex questions, so like that one you wouldn't need to tweak too much. But to get those like lesser known films and those like complex questions, deep cuts from various sources, wouldn't be a bad thing to sprinkle into every round, because it makes us want to watch other films other than just the ones that are being asked about that we can answer.
Right. I like having tough fives and tricky threes, but I agree that it shouldn't just all be layups in round 1 and 2. And so in terms of the round 3 of the finals match, and this is sort of my problem with round 3 of a 5-round match in general, is that the quality of the question seems to vary wildly. And so you're betting not just in terms of the strength of the confidence, that you have in that category, but like you're trying to like guess, is this going to be an easy question, a hard question, and it's not consistent. And so, obviously Jim Henson, I don't think is a strength for Andreyka or I, but we bet 1 point because we thought the question would be a little bit harder than I thought it ended up being, which was very easy. And I don't see how you can have a very easy question like that be worth 3 points.
That does bring us back to like what you mentioned about not seeing your opponent's second round, because you would have seen the quality of. I look at the betting round as an average of a 2-point question, and so you would have seen what they were given in Jim Henson, because that's the category that they spun.
I mean, maybe we should have been more confident or more aggressive. We were just expecting a kind of curveball, particularly after they got Jim Henson. After them, they got 6 questions. Like the 7th one, maybe a little bit of a deeper cut. So that was a little frustrating. Is not being able to really get a handle on how hard that 3rd round question is going to be. But round 4, was problematic in this match. And I think it is the reason that Christian has said we're not doing teams virtually next year, which of course he's going to walk back. This is like, don't be silly. Like, I'm not even in Los Angeles. I don't have a return ticket at this time. So how do you say there's not going to be a teams match when
your camps are separated?
Not to mention, even if you go into Christian's studio, and God bless him, I know he'd keep it as safe as possible, and people would be tested and whatnot, but I don't think I'd be in there without a mask. And so now you have me sitting on camera wearing a mask Like, that's just not fun for anybody. So I think it'll be, if you're comfortable with it, come on into the studio, but you may be sitting in front of a computer in that studio.
Mm.
So yeah, circling back to that fourth round, like what was going through your mind when you started hearing the questions that were asked of you?
Okay, so let's take this one step by step. First of all, I would have done very well with Andrejko's question.
Yeah.
I think I would have gotten, because I knew Love and Mercy, which he missed at the end. So I probably would have passed on The Prisoner's Year as well and gotten 4 instead of 3. With my questions, here's the beef. And PJ knows I love him and all that. Question 1. Okay, what male actor was nominated for an Oscar, right, for Les Miserables, right? That was it?
That was the one, yeah.
To start, there was an issue because they left out the word male, okay?
Oh, that's right.
So then I'm thinking like Anne Hathaway or whatever. Next, when they finally, said, no, it's male, I mean, ridiculous or not, what Les Mis are you talking about? There's no year in the question. There are multiple Les Mis movies, and when you're asking me which one I thought might have been nominated for an Oscar, I'm going to go with Liam Neeson and Jeffrey Rush.
Yeah, the 90s one that doesn't get talked about.
So that tripped me up, and I don't think in the speed round you can have questions that could potentially trip people up because then it's costing them seconds. So right off the bat, I'm thrown for a loop because I don't know what Les Mis you're talking about. Question 2, there was some kind of thing with the audio. Maybe it's because I don't recognize every Lord of the Rings character or whatever, but I didn't know what the hell he said. Like it was like gobbledygook to me, something elf, the Hobbit or whatever. So after the match, I sort of said, guys, I didn't even hear that one. The Big Short one, okay? Name a movie about a 2015 movie about the 2007-2008 housing crisis, right? That was the question.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen 99 Homes?
I've never even heard of it.
Daniel?
No.
99 Homes is a movie with Andrew Garfield and Michael Shannon. It's a big indie movie.
Okay, no, I have heard about it, yeah.
And that played festivals in 2014, but was released in 2015. It is about the housing crisis. So it's like there are multiple answers for the questions the way that they're phrased in that round 4. And my crime wasn't knowing that, like, The Big Short's about the housing crisis. It's actually, my crime is knowing too much. Okay?
That's actually a pretty good point, because, when you do think about it, those questions were a little misleading.
They need to be specific. And I get, look at Shazam. They didn't have any problem with them. And maybe that's my issue, is that I overthink things in these big matches. And I think PJ's trying to trip me up or whatever, or it's a trick question. And he's always pretty straightforward. Yeah. Very rare. Only when it comes to the multiple choice is PJ trying to fuck with you a little bit. But most of the time, very straightforward. And I get tripped up with that, and I think it cost me dearly in this match because Les Mis, I went back and forth. Hugh Jackman, Russell Crowe too, like in that 6 seconds that you have. But with the Big Short one, that was a literal, like, there's multiple answers to this. And so if you're doing then there was the Imitation Neighbors one, okay? And he goes, what year was the movie Imitation, or what year did we see the release of The Imitation Game? And Neighbors, right? It's like, just give me one. Just give me what is the year of the Imitation Game came out. Because Neighbors, whether it was the same year or not, I may think Neighbors was 2015, but Imitation Game was 2014. And now I'm going back in my head, shit, which year was it? Pass. Like, just give me, it should just be, who starred in this? Who directed this? What year did this come out? And the questions I thought were very poorly written in round 4, and that was part of what went into the challenge. In addition to not being able to hear the Hobbit one. And so they gave me one more question, and I didn't know that either. So fortunately, the frankly shit show that was round 4 of that match, it took forever to tape round 4. It didn't affect anything because I passed on that Robin Williams makeup question.
Yeah, and now that you say it, And then you actually said the question. I guess, yeah, for a movie like Les Mis, you definitely need that specificness, because how many, like you said, how many versions of that movie? Like, there's the 1990s one with Liam Neeson and Jeffrey Rush, and then God knows how many there were in the early 20th, right?
I can't remember which match it was, but I was just having this exact complaint with a Lion King question, but it turns out they were both scored by the same person. So I didn't really have an argument to be made there. But it is just like, it confuses you to think of two different movies that answer the same question. And which one do I pick?
It definitely tripped me up there. The only one that I didn't know at all, what was my other question? There was one that I just did not know. Maybe it was like a release. I don't know which one it was, but it was a bad showing. Yeah, it was a bad showing in round 4, and you could see in the live chat, eventually when I watched it, just how people were just getting down, and they were like, "Oh, this is over," and just Sneider's not in it anymore. I'm like, what? At what point did the give up come? Like, I don't understand.
That's actually a thing. That's a thing I wanted to mention earlier, because if I want to like run my mouth a little bit here,
go for it. I'm a big boy, Daniel. I can take it.
Oh no, not to you actually, to everyone else. If Dan Murrell was down 6 points going into round 3, they'd say, "Oh, he's going to hit 10 points and force his opponent to answer all their questions." And when the shoe's on the other foot, it's he's down on himself. He doesn't know. I've seen that exact look in John Roca, in Dan Murrell, in Rachel Cushing. Like, when you have every opportunity to lose the game on every question, you're gonna feel pressured. It's natural.
Especially when it's a title match, and especially when all the spotlight's on you.
Honestly, it's a lot like football, right? Because Tom Brady is a super competitive guy, right? But when his defense is on the field, Tom Brady is as good as me and you sitting there on the bench. He can't do anything. He's helpless. And that's the way it is in the Schmodown. I can't do all I can do, which is exactly what Roxy said. All you guys can do is go out there and hit your 2, 3, and 5 and hope and pray that they mess up. And that is exactly what we did. Yeah. So giving up, to me, it's like an absurd accusation. Could my body language have been better? Yeah. And I hope that didn't rub off on Andreyko. But at the end of the day, we pulled off what I think is one of the greatest comebacks in Schmodown history. Yeah. And you can call what I did in round 4 a bit of a choke job, because, frankly, it was. Although I think I've made a good argument here for why the questions were kind of bullshit, in my opinion. No offense, PJ. But, I think that it was Shazam. That Shazam, as much as they outplayed us, because I give them credit, they did. At the end of the day, they probably answered more questions correct than we did. They're the ones who choked when it mattered in the fourth quarter of the game. Yeah. And though they were tough questions, and I'm not saying that they were layups like the ones that Dan Murrell missed. All due respect to the GOAT, Dan Murrell, I thought he missed some real gimmies in losing that belt to Adam Collins. But Shazam, like, I'm sorry, like that's why they're called 5-pointers.
Yeah. No, like I said earlier, that match is easily the most emotional one, just because of that alone. And also, you could kind of tell that Andreyko was kind of upset a little bit going after that 4th round as well.
He had every right to be upset. It was not a good performance from me, and there were certainly questions that if I were him, I'd be like, "Oh, Sneider, how do you not know that?" The same way I'm like, "Well, love and mercy," to that Brian Wilson question that he missed. But we trusted each other. Like, when he threw out Hugo, I had to just say, make sure it wasn't Ender's Game, because I didn't think it was Ender's Game either way. They're not going to get Jude Law in that movie. But that was teamwork, and me, and him and I trusting each other. I mean, he trusted me to handle the 3-pointer, even though I was like a little on tilt after that round 4. Right, I handled the more important, more valuable question. So. I think we make great teammates, and we do trust each other. We played together a long time, and we're going to keep playing together for a long time. And Roxy is the perfect manager for us. She's bringing back 3 champions next year. I don't know another manager who can say that. She drafted pretty well, I'd say.
No, you're in a better position, I'd say, than the Finstock Exchange were last year.
Yeah. I hope so.
Yeah, no kidding. I hope
a lot of new talent out there, and a lot of available top people. So and it almost hurts us because we went above Finstock in the factions, right? So we have worst draft pick.
Yeah.
But I love that people were like, well, you got to have that better draft pick next season. What am I going to do? Throw the title match? Like, don't be stupid.
Yeah, I hate it when people say, oh, they're throwing the game so they can get the first overall pick. Fuck you. Nobody does that.
Yeah, this isn't like a league with like salary caps and like attendance to worry about.
Yeah. And only a general manager tanks a team. Like, nobody else can do it because players will play.
Right, we're too proud. We play to win. And I'm very grateful and as I said, lucky that we won on Saturday because the Shazam played great. They just luck was not in the odds were not in their favor.
No, you guys answered the right questions at the right time, it seemed. So now to transition a little bit out of Schmodown. So what caused you to fall in love with movies? Like, was there a specific movie? Like, what was it?
Boy. I mean, I came of age in the VHS days. So yeah, living close to a Blockbuster Video and just stocking up for the weekends with my brothers. And that's how I got an education. I had a double tape deck so I could record, stuff off the TV or rent a movie and then just, transfer it to a tape and return it. And, I just grew my collection. I think it was horror movies that I started out watching and falling in love with, probably because it felt like I wasn't supposed to be watching them. And then really, it was, once Scream hit when I was 12, Scream was the movie where I was like, oh, like I could do this for a living. Like I want to write movies. And I just thought that movie was brilliant and something that, smart ass 12-year-old Jeff who thought he knew it all. To name the killer in Friday the 13th, Jason Voorhees. They've got you though, and that is when I was like, oh my god, this is great.
Yeah, you and me were close enough to the same age, so I grew up. I'm a VHS kid myself, and for me, it was Jurassic Park in theaters.
Absolutely, Jurassic Park was a formative theatrical experience.
I know it's not the first movie I saw in theaters, but it's the first one I remember.
Yeah. Every summer, I'd go off to summer camp starting that summer. I don't even know if I was home for Jurassic Park, if that was something I saw at summer camp. But my parents would take me to the movies before they would, take me up to summer camp. And then that became like something I looked forward to every summer. It was normally an R-rated movie, something I knew I wasn't going to be able to watch, with the kids at camp.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh god, those action movies in the 90s, like that was
Demolition
Man.
Man.
It's the perfect time. I was 15 years old in 1999 when the incredible year of movies, and that's sort of what just cemented it for me.
See, my introduction to horror was my mom let me watch a movie I shouldn't have when I was 3. It gave me nightmares for a good 12 years. Child's Play.
Great movie.
It is. I love the movie now. I cannot be near any merchandise. Especially the dolls, just because of that fear I had when I was a kid. Yeah.
My sister and I had 2 VCRs and 2 copies of The Lion King because the time it took to rewind the tape was time we could spend watching the opening of Lion King. And so you swap it into the other VCR, you rewind it, and you put the new tape in. And like we definitely killed one of those copies, maybe not both of them. But
did you have all those VHS Disney tapes and like those really nice like packaging?
I still do actually.
We had a number of them, but we also had a number that were just like taped onto, and my parents worked like in distribution of VHS tapes, and so we had all sorts of films that you shouldn't be watching. You don't show 8-year-olds Leprechaun but my dad thought that was a great idea.
Yep. That's another one. I remember that.
Yeah, like my education was because so in the mid '90s I would have been 8 years old. So my education was Robin Hood Men in Tights, Tommy Boy, which is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Yeah.
League of Their Own, Happy Gilmore. Like that was my movie education.
Great.
Yeah.
It would be from like 2005 onwards. So like the last decade and a half of films, and I mean, there have been some good ones and some pretty bad ones.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think that the 2000s or the 2010s have quite been like the 90s. I really think Soda and I had just the glory days of movies. But
oh, totally.
Obviously there have been some great films to come out the last couple decades.
Yeah. So, is there a movie that you haven't had a chance to see in the big screen that maybe you would like to go back and see?
Oh boy, a movie.
Like for me, it's the original Rocky, because Rocky's my all-time favorite movie. I would love to see that in theaters for the first time.
I would love to see Rocky 4 in theaters for the first time.
Makes me wish they were releasing the director's cut in theaters.
That would be amazing. Yeah, that's a good question.
I'd
I don't
pick like the Lord of the Rings films because
I fell asleep when I saw Fellowship in the theater.
And I know like those movies look good when it's the biggest screen you can put them on. So
yeah, as someone who saw Fellowship in theaters when it came out, yeah, I fell asleep and didn't watch them again for a long time. It's only this year when I was in quarantine at the beginning of the year that I actually watched all three and enjoyed them.
I've just been so lucky to be able to see certain movies on the big screen that I never thought I'd get the chance to see. Like I saw, here, I'll show you guys. Where is it? Where'd it go? Up here? Heat. My program. Oh, it's right here. Sorry. There it is. Heat. And Chris Nolan, handled the Q&A with Michael Mann. Pacino was there and De Niro. I mean, it was just like an incredible evening. The movie's 3 hours and the Q&A was probably another hour and a half, but I didn't move a muscle.
Yeah, no kidding. That actually sounds like a lot of fun. Like you lived in Vancouver for 6 years, and that's some of the things I do miss is those type of experiences that you get in theaters. 'Cause I live in a town of like 90,000 people right now. Next big town is like 6 hours away.
Wow.
Yeah. So
basically, my whole town shut down once because James Franco was 2 towns over filming a movie, and people went nuts. I'm from the suburbs outside of Montreal, so if James Franco.
I'm in Terrace, British Columbia, which is about halfway up the map of BC.
All right. Well, both places are near and dear. So being, in Boston, when you want to drink before you're 21, you go up to Montreal. Yep. So I've been to Montreal a couple times, had some great times in Montreal. I've been up to Vancouver to get my ass kicked by Uwe Boll.
That was in Vancouver?
That was in Vancouver.
Right on.
And the screenplay that I wrote in college, it was originally called Montreal. and then I changed it to Vancouver.
Very nice.
Better title, Vancouver. But Montreal is the city that's near and dear to my heart.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I've only been once, and it's not a city I'd want to drive in, but it's a city I'd like to go back to.
Don't drive in that city.
God, no.
I'm not a drinker, and
me neither.
I got as drunk as I've ever been in Montreal and wound up throwing up in like a French public toilet. It was not a good place to be. I took 33 15-year-old boys to Montreal. I was their camp counselor, and that was a shit show.
No kidding. Oy.
Oh,
Oy.
Wow. That's
they
wouldn't. Yeah,
no
today they wouldn't even let you. Like, they don't let one adult supervise that many kids anymore.
I have a great story about going up to Montreal. I'll tell it real quick because it is really one of my greats. So, when you get on the bus to go up to Montreal, the bus driver's like, listen, we got a bus full of young guys here. This is the kind of bus that they stop at the border and they search. So if anybody has anything on them, you got to get rid of it now. And I looked at all my kids, and none of them had anything. And I was like, all right, let's move it out, bus driver. Sure enough, I had some shit on me, right? So as we approach the border, we're like in Vermont, and I tell the bus driver, I was like, hey, stop at this Dunkin' Donuts. I go into the Dunkin' Donuts and I take my my weed and my pipe and I roll it up in plastic or whatever, and I put it inside a public toilet in the tank. Okay, and it's inside the tank of a toilet in Dunkin' Donuts. And we continue on to Montreal because I didn't want to get to the border and then like cost these kids their trip by having the bus turn around. So on the way back from Montreal, I told the bus I lost my keys in that Dunkin' Donuts, and I called the manager and they found them. You got to stop so I can run in there and get them. And sure enough, my package was still in the toilet 3 days later.
That is epic. That is epic. They're like, I'm actually where I'm lucky enough to have had 2 movies filmed near me. Insomnia was filmed 4 hours away.
One.
Yeah, and the big thing is Robin Williams was at an airport here, and it's like I somehow managed to miss it. But yeah, so Insomnia was filmed in Stewart, BC, which is 4 hours away. It's also the same place that The Thing was filmed.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Now
so
I know.
You can still go up there. You can still go up there and find it's like some remnants of the outpost. And so it's filmed on a glacier.
Wow.
Yeah,
I bet it's beautiful up where you are.
Oh, it really, really is, man. Like where I live is surrounded by mountains. But like Stewart, BC, it's a border town. So on the the Stewart and then border, and then there's Hyder, Alaska. And in Hyder, Alaska, there is a bar where you can go get Hyderize, which essentially you're drinking like 90% alcohol stuff. But the last time I went, they have like money signed from people from all over the world, and lo and behold, there's Kurt Russell and there's John Carpenter.
Nice.
Like, woo. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's every time we talk about me and somebody talk about movies I've never before, I'm like, yeah, I know where The Thing was filmed.
Daniel, is anything filmed near you?
I'm not sure about film mostly because like the weather's not super great around Montreal, summer or winter. It's kind of bad. But like I know Montreal is like the music city because like anybody who tours hits Montreal if they're doing Canada at all, and it's apparently great for musicians because
I hear
the
there's
legal
a great
age of
jazz
18.
festival. Some friends of mine went there years ago, and they said there's a great jazz festival in Montreal.
A lot of my favorite rock bands are Canadian, so I like the music coming out of Canada and the actors. You guys produce some top tier actors.
We really do, and it seems like everybody, like a lot of productions, are flocking here too. Because I mean, all the CW stuff films in Vancouver.
Well, yeah.
And one of my favorite things was watching those shows. It's like I know where that is. 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 That's like 2 blocks from my house. Yeah. That's basically my
Hollywood North.
Pretty much, and I worked, I don't know, about 4 or 5 blocks from the studio. So one day I'm at work, and it's just like I saw a Daily Planet truck drive by, and it was like, because I'm a big comic book guy, so to see that was pretty cool. And I actually got to see a stunt filmed for season 10 of Smallville.
So Soda and Daniel, what are your favorite divisions in the Schmodown? If you're a comic book guy, are you a big geekdom guy or no?
Actually, funny enough, I'm more singles because I mean, while I do like my comic books, movies like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that are a little out of my wheelhouse. But for me, it's definitely singles.
Yeah, I fall more inner geekdom, and teams is kind of really grown on me the last couple of seasons. But like I love the fantasy things, and like other than Star Trek, I basically love every category of the inner geekdom. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, see me when I played along through the whole spectacular, and after the first round of the Star Wars match, I just threw my pen over my shoulder. I said, "Fuck it."
I don't even bother watching those. They might as well be in another language to me.
Yeah, like I kind of understand, but
like I can't even.
Yeah, that's the one division I definitely wouldn't be able to compete in because you have to go into the non-movie material at some point to get those names.
Do you wait? Really? They ask about non-movie stuff?
Well, what I mean is like they ask stuff about the movies, but I mean like you have to read the novelizations probably to know. Yeah,
let's break this down.
It's what it seems like.
At one point in the Star Wars tournament, they asked a question about a droid who has no speaking lines and is in the background of a scene torturing another droid, if I'm not mistaken. And they asked, what's his name?
Is it named in the credits?
That I don't know.
I actually don't know. It maybe why it doesn't have a speaking
If
line.
it's in the credits, it's fair game.
I guess. I
Yeah,
don't know. Just sometimes it seems like you have to go that extra mile in that division. It's like I don't have the time.
Dude, I'll tell you. I mean, obviously, the Shimoda has some of the most talented trivia people in the world. But I've been to these trivia things in LA, and they'll read an IMDb cast list from the bottom up,
Yeah. Oh.
and people get it on like the third or fourth extra name. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can get I've actually been banned from playing Trivia Pursuit Pop Culture multiple times, but I went to a bar quiz one night, and the second round was the entertainment round, so naturally my team won. But the question that really pissed me off was, who's the original drummer of the Beatles? You guys know the answer?
No.
Okay, it's Pete Best. My team was the only one that answered that. Everyone else answered Ringo Starr, and that was their answer. And I'm like, no. I actually threw my hands up. It's like, no. Ringo Starr joined him for the first album. There was 2 years of the Beatles before that. Like, I'm the guy that's like, no, I will argue semantics.
Then maybe you'd make a good Schmodown manager.
I'm not gonna lie, I did contemplate doing an audition tape, but I'm like,
throw your hat in the ring. Tell Christian.
I would, but unfortunately, where I'm at and how expensive it is to fly to LA from where I'm at, it's a big deterrent.
I get it.
Yeah, because it's like from where I live, it's a 2-hour flight to Vancouver, and that's like $500.
Are you guys worried that there's too many people that are going to be coming in next season that you're not going to be able to see some of these developing young talents enough, or some old veteran favorites?
I don't think so, because I think they're going to. Well, it's already been announced. There's going to be more matches next season
Which
per
I'm
week
convinced
than there
Christian
are
is
this
trying
season.
to kill people like us.
I
singles
assume,
tournament. Woof.
I assume all the new people are going to play the new people, and there's going to be a small rookie tournament, and then there's going to be kind of the big show, and then once there is a studio again, I'd imagine that to be you're going to play your first 2-3 matches digitally, and then if you're good enough, then you get flown out for your number one contenders.
Do I get a number one contender shot against Merle now? Is that the
almost
Normally
definitely?
Gone. Yeah.
Usually, actually, you might be the number one contender because the champion is not number one, and usually when the champion loses, they drop to 3. With 2 defenses, they might give Dan over you.
Well, they might just make me play Dan, and then the winner gets a title shot.
Which actually I would love to see. I think I'm not going to lie, a lot of fans I think would like to see that.
I would love to see it. Believe me, I want a shot at Dan Merle.
Oh,
do you guys know those questions? Who played Mickey Cohen in Gangster Squad?
No, that one I didn't know because I haven't seen Gangster Squad, but I did play along and I got 25 of the questions correct.
I mean, I have so many of those questions written right next to me here.
Yeah, he's our resident stat guy.
The John Hamm, who played Laramie in Bad Times at the El Royale, with both of them guessing Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, I see another movie I hadn't seen, so I thought Chris Hemsworth as well. So no, I don't think I actually got any Dance 5s.
Oh my god, I was screaming at my screen watching those. I couldn't believe those guys that he whiffed on those. Oof. But Collins is obviously a force of nature.
Jesus.
I don't think the league's really seen anything like him, and that includes Dan.
No.
And yeah, I can't wait to see sort of where his career goes, if he proves to sort of be a fluke of some kind, or
if he can defend that title once, he's in like select category right there.
Yeah,
I think he'll defend it for a while. I don't know that I'll be able to take it off him.
Hey man, anything is possible. Who's so far has only been the only people to defend? It's Dan and Sam, if I'm not mistaken, right? The singles title?
I don't know. I don't know things like that.
Yeah.
Roka never did?
No, Roka never did.
No.
Neither did Bibbs,
I'm
neither
thinking,
did Ethan.
I thought Riley may have, but it's honestly semantics.
I was gonna say the season 3 is kind of a haze, just because you were transitioning out of that Ultimate Schmodown style thing on the Schmoes Note to the own league. So for me, it's kind of hazy what's what there in that time.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of people probably don't try and count defenses too much because they're never gonna beat 6.
No.
Maybe
I
Alex
wanna know
Damon.
who's on your Rushmores, and you do not have to include me.
Well, honestly, with your season, you definitely would be up there, but excluding you, I'd go Rachel, Roca, Merle, and then in that final spot, oh, yeah, that final spot's the tough one. Because, I mean, you can make a pitch for Kalinowski for what he did in IG. You can make a pitch for Alex Damon in Star Wars. Hell, you can even make a pitch for Smets.
Maybe.
I'd go Riley in the George Washington slot.
Yeah, the correct answer is Dan Murrell, Rachel Cushing, John Roca, and Jeff Sneider. And Alex Damon, if you need to answer a fifth one, because that is the most dominant champion. That's very impressive. I mean, we talk about the stats of Adam Collins, like Alex Damon is that, but just about the random ass droids in the background of Star Wars scenes. So that's something else entirely.
If he were to take all that time studying Star Wars and put it into like a singles career, woof.
Yeah, I mean, you can't take anything away from Damon because he plays in Star Wars, because I think that's just as competitive. Like, there are people who just devote their whole lives to that franchise, and they
made it. He made it that competitive.
Oh, easily.
Right. He set the bar, and everyone, tries to meet it. But at the same time, I don't put the Star Wars inner geekdom belts on the same level as a singles or a team's belt, simply because the focus is just narrowed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you were to ask me about my 11 favorite movies, I'm going to do pretty well in them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, you're definitely right. To me, they're more the mid-tier titles for sure. And again, it's not to take anything away from them. It's just you have to have a wider knowledge in things like singles and teams.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you do have to be ready for any question ever, and it's next to impossible to watch every Inner Geekdom movie over and over again. There is still 230 of them or something around there. So nobody has that kind of time, but it does give you enough spaces to like store your information, because there are a lot of common actors and scores. And
I mean, if I really devoted myself to I couldn't do it for Star Wars, nor would I want to. If I really devoted myself to Inner Geekdom, I think I could do okay, but I don't want to watch those movies. I don't want to watch every Marvel movie again and all the Harry Potters and all that stuff.
So you seem to be the rare outlier in sorts. Like, what is it about those movies that just doesn't attract you?
I like movies set in the real world with things that can happen to real people. So I've just never been a fantasy guy. I could never read those books, which I think is a big part of it. Like, I grew up reading crime books and still do. So I have lowbrow taste in fiction. I was never one of those kids dragging an 800-page Harry Potter book behind me.
Yeah, fair enough. Like, I mean, I tried Lord of the Rings once. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, I can't even read that one, honestly.
Yeah, I mostly have it because I have the book, but that's about it.
And just all the names are so confusing. I mean, I didn't watch Game of Thrones either. Everyone's talking about all these names. I'm like, well, who the hell is that? What is that? It's not for me. Ewoks, Star Trek stuff. It's just not for me.
Yeah. Has there been a MCU? Like, has there been one that maybe is like, that was actually a really good movie?
I really liked Ant-Man. Ant-Man is my MCU movie, and I like the DC characters a lot. I just think that the movies aren't as good.
I'm with you on that one.
Dark Knight, Logan, Kick-Ass, The Crow. Those are my favorite comic book movies.
How about The Phantom?
No.
That's one I still watch, mostly out of nostalgia. Because I remember my dad was like, "Oh, The Phantom's coming out. The Phantom's coming out." And he took me to the theater to see it, and so because of that, it's kind of got a sentimentality to it.
Oh.
So before we let you go, because we are close to the hour mark, there's 3 questions. One of them is one I just came up with on the spot. It is Showdown related. What is a match that you want to have outside of the Merle one that you haven't had the opportunity to have? Like, who's the competitor you want to face besides Merle? Could be from any time of the Schmodown.
I would love to see Odd Couple versus the Shire Wolves 3.
Ooh,
Goddamn, yeah.
I thought for a second, I was looking and wondering, does he want to see Odd Couple versus Above the Line? And then you came up with a better answer than that.
Because Shire Wolves, we split, right? It was just 1-1?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love a rubber match just to prove once and for all that the Odd Couple are better than the Shire Wolves.
Yeah, I was watching something on the Shire Wolves the other day, and it doesn't seem like they were together that long, but man, the impact they had, it's pretty intense.
It's understandable. I mean, those are 2 very well-liked competitors.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can definitely tell it comes across. Okay, and the second question is one of 2 that we normally ask everybody, which I'm sorry we didn't give them to you beforehand.
No, I got them. I got them. I don't know if I did justice.
Oh, you did? Okay, Daniel never passed that on to me.
Also, wait, let me cut in with a Schmodown question.
Yes, of course.
Bring it on.
Well, I mean, while we are derailing this transition, what was your favorite title defense? Was it the one where you lost the belt, where you defended it successfully? Is it the next one coming up?
I'm not real good with like my own history in terms of like, I don't remember all the matches. Like the fans might. But
like from a personality perspective,
an actual like a title defense. I don't even like remember what they were. I know I was psyched to beat John Roca whenever I played him.
I was about to say that. Like, for number 1's got to be beating John Roca to take the title.
Yeah, it's pretty much always me beating Roca. But
so one of the top 10 matches we'll go with.
Yeah, I think so. Let me ask you, if I get a number 1 contender match against Adam, or if it's me and Merle to play Adam or whatever, who is it to play Odd Couple? It would be Final Exam versus Kalinowski and Chance?
I think so.
It would be losers of the tournament. Probably against Corruption, because again, like the champions would fall to 3rd, and so 1 and 2 would be Corruption.
Final Exam stay a team. Well, it'll be interesting to see.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'd probably have to go with Roca on the title defense then.
Yeah, though it's always fun to see you get his goat. Okay, so yeah, back to the other question. So what is something that people like us, just regular old schmucks, would be surprised to know about you?
That's a good question. Honestly, it's that I cry a lot at movies.
Really?
I am a huge crier. And if you make me cry, then I will think your movie is maybe even better than it really is. So that's the secret to scoring with Ian Sneider is get me crying, get the little lower lip trembling, a little quiver, and you will have a fan in me. Because any movie that can bring that emotion out of me, I think is worthwhile on some level.
Oh, I would never thought I'd actually share that in common with you. Okay, sidebar to that, what's the movie that made you cry the most?
That made me cry the most.
Well, I mean, that hit you the most, I guess.
I mean, I was definitely a mess after during Manchester by the Sea.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful Boy fucked my shit up. That was an emotional experience. Actually both the Boston Marathon bombing movies, Stronger
that one I can
and Patriots Day. I actually found myself getting very emotional, just having sort of lived through it in a way. Not that I was in Massachusetts when that happened, but
I was gonna say, do those feel a little too soon for you?
No, I mean Patriots Day felt soon, but I don't know. Those things were inevitable, and they were just handled classily, and Yeah, I didn't have any problem with that.
All right.
It's bound to happen.
Of course. So, Daniel, you want to take the last question?
Yeah. And to add on to that, it's about how rather than when, like, because someone's going to make it no matter what. And rather you get it done right than have it done hastily by somebody else. Yeah. And so, yeah, for our last question, if movies were going away and everyone has a different reason, like aliens or some sort of disaster, maybe we'll say the Schmominati is taking away all of the movies so that
Robots for Roka.
you can't watch them anymore. What would be like 3 movies that you would watch for either a second time or ones that you haven't seen, which don't seem to be many films?
So basically, what 3 movies would you watch as a final send-off
Well,
to the genre?
strangely enough, it would not be a new movie. I think that a lot of people would say, well, I'd want to see that movie that I never got around to seeing, or I always wanted to see and just never popped it in the DVD player. I think I would just go with 3 comfort movies. That's sort of what I learned about myself this year, because I've had so many movies to watch, for my end of the year list or whatever. And you know what I find myself watching is The Office and Seinfeld.
Yes.
So I think that if I knew movies were going to end, I'd just want that sort of a warm hug of a movie, or at least for like 1 or 2 of the 3. Like I wouldn't choose like horror movies. Mm-hmm. So I would go with probably. Oh, now I'm like changing my answer on the fly. Shit. I wanted to say Heat, but but I don't know that I'm going to. I think I'm going to go with like Home Alone, which is a perfect movie. I might go Toy Story.
Wow. Okay.
I'd like go back to my childhood and possibly Dazed and Confused.
Oh, I love that movie.
Just movies that sort of sit there, put a smile on your face.
Yeah.
Yeah. As much as I would want to represent horror or like an action genre, which I guess you could count Heat under, I think I'd go with like comedies and things that made me feel good.
Yeah, which is a great approach, and that's the thing I love about most of this question. Everybody's got a different approach to it. I don't think I've ever heard a movie mentioned more than once.
Not yet. I don't think so.
It's a personal thing. What are some of the other? Were there any memorable answers to that? Because now I'm curious.
Oh man, what was that one? Who said it? It was like a 30-day long movie. The trailer is 4 hours, and they were just trying to cheese the question for sure.
I want to say it was Roka, but I might be mistaken on that.
No, I actually think it was Chance or Collins.
Oh, okay.
Because it would have been one of the ones I
sounds like a Collins kind of answer.
I honestly, I don't have a memorable answer for that stands out. But when I interviewed Kevin in the summer, Kevin Smets, when he answered the thing you don't know about me question, and he said he loves to sing karaoke, and it was All I Ask of You from the Phantom of the Opera. I was like, dude, like that
is a good
that's
one.
How you get me.
I do love me some karaoke. I like to show off, obviously. What were like one of yours?
Oh, for Final Farewell?
Yeah.
It would have to be Rocky. Right? Because that character
couldn't go out without saying goodbye to Rocky. I get it.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's like that the version of the character we get in that first movie is kind of who I tried to be in a way. Like never give up, always trying to help people as best as I can, even if they don't want it, that type of person. And
Daniel?
let's see.
Oddly enough, I have 2 answers, and I was trying to think of a more nerdy one, and realized a lot of the superhero movies are kind of downers. I would probably go something like Spider-Man Homecoming, which is a decent film and also my favorite portrayal of the character so far. And then for another answer, along the lines of Dazed and Confused, I want to watch Detroit Rock City again.
I love that movie.
I love Detroit Rock City, and that is a movie that I studied the structure of. It's so perfectly structured. The way that they send each character out on their own little individual sort of missions before reconvening everybody together.
Speaking of which,
Very
when
well
you walked out in New York to New York Groove by Ace Frehley, I was shitting bricks because I am a huge Kiss fan.
Yeah, that was a good one. That song, I want to say, came from this movie. I want to see if you guys get it. Okay, it's a movie. What movie saw Shia LaBeouf and Robert Downey Jr. play the same character?
Oh,
Oh man.
Shia LaBeouf was in a movie with Robert Downey Jr.?
Yes, and they play the same character, and the character is the director of the movie.
I'm definitely not gonna get this.
Me neither,
Neither.
because when it comes to Shia LaBeouf, I'm not overly familiar with his filmography.
This is a good movie. This was the introduction, really, of Channing Tatum. It's called A Guide to Recognizing Your Saints.
I've never heard of that. I will
Check
look
it
that up.
out. They both play Dito Montiel, who's the director of the movie. Yeah, that is where I believe I got the Kiss song from.
Nice. Because, yeah, like I said, huge Kiss fan, so when I heard it, I was like, woo!
I had a question for you guys. What do you like value in a competitor? Are you looking? Would you rather there were 10 more Adam Collinses who were these trivia phenoms, and it was like really you felt like you were watching the guy on Jeopardy? Like, remember that guy who went on that streak? I forget his name.
Yeah, Jennings, Ken Jennings.
Yeah, Ken Jennings. It's like, do you want 10 more Ken Jenningses, or do you want people that have a little bit more personality, like the Makugas, or do you want a sort of mixture, like a combo? Like, what sort of characters are you guys drawn to?
I fall into the mixture, so that's why one of my favorites to watch is Bibbs. Because he can get serious when he needs to, but he's also a walking Muppet.
He's theatrical and
exactly. I think he's a good balance.
It's a good answer.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I look at it too. I do feel as it's moving into the more faction oriented sport kind of deal that we're going to lose the pure characters like Makuga, and like I don't think Finstock is playing matches in this age.
Thank
and
God.
such and such, but you will still get people that love the theatrics, and as long as there are people that get that, the overall product will be enjoyable.
So, would you have rather than Brett Sheridan playing, would you have rather seen a real sort of match there, or do you think that's just good for the league to have those kind of fun exhibition type matches peppered in?
So I think I actually was just talking to Justin Hamilton on this pre-recording for a show, and we're both on the same camp in this. It was actually good to have that match where it was and the Jericho match where it was, because it kind of acted like as a breather between the serious stuff.
Right. It's almost too much tension when you're there, hanging on every answer.
Yeah, because
I did think he had a better shot. Like, I wasn't looking at a KO really in my projections. I was thinking it was going to be a third round. Like, I didn't think anyone was answering a 5-pointer, but I thought it was going to go to the 2 and the 3, maybe to a sudden death question or 3. And like, but you could have easily done somebody like a Video Drew who gets both the character and the full game aspect.
Or
I don't know
Harris, the delinquent.
I don't know if Brett's into it as much as some people are, but if he is, then he's perfectly fine.
Do you guys like the faction thing that they went with this season, or do you feel like there was too much emphasis placed on that? Like, I'm so curious about that, because as the player, it just never even entered my mind, like, or earning points for the faction. And in that regard, like, if there is going to be factions, should each faction get the same number of games, like in the NFL or the NBA?
Yeah.
Rather than just like, well, if you win, you get to keep playing. Like, should there be a set schedule at the beginning of the season? Like, here's the entire regular season and every match that we're doing, or do we have to let the wins and the losses sort of dictate the matchups?
So I do like the idea of giving all the factions the same amount of games, because I just think that's actually fair. But there is a part of me that does like the win-loss sort of thing. Because it kind of almost felt like the Wild West. Everybody was out for themselves sort of thing. And now you're trying to get points for your team. So I do miss it, but I do like what we were given this year. Because, I mean, without the faction, we wouldn't have had the Swag Corruption rivalry. Or Roxy and Shannon, for God's sake.
We can always do both. I particularly like the faction stuff because I've actually started a whole like fantasy league where all a bunch of friends have drafted their own factions throughout, and we're keeping track with all the same points as the other factions, and it's very engaging. But you can just kind of where was I going with that? You can make sure. Yeah, I lost that for a second.
Yeah, Trey went off the rails.
You were asking about what is it exactly?
Just like the factions versus not factions and scheduling, and the number of games.
Oh yes, yeah. So each faction has like 10 people on it. Make sure every manager gets their 10 games that are guaranteed, and then you could still say winners get more matches, but you get those guaranteed ones. And if as the manager you don't want to sign up your 10th player for their match, sign up somebody a second time.
I just think it's tough when you lose your first match and now you're just like thrown to the bottom of the scrap heap, and because it's like that's not what the Schmodown is kind of about. I think it's about redemption and upsets and comebacks, and it would suck if you don't get afforded those opportunities because now there's like 100 players in line for a match. You know what I mean?
And I think that's why the redemption season of JTE was so memorable, was because he was at the bottom and he worked his way right back up to the top.
All I know is the revenge tour paid off perfectly this year. Everybody. 100%. Irwin, Oyama, Yanni, Collins, Riley, one by one, they all fell.
All the names checked off the list now? For now.
Yeah. I'm taking a much a well-earned rest for a couple months.
Kidding. No kidding. So on that note, thank you very much for joining us, Jeff. It has been an honor and a pleasure to sit here and talk to you.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure to get to do this show with you guys, and you ask good questions.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we do. Truthfully, we actually did, when we first started doing this, it was very structured, whatever, and then I came and started doing interviews, and I was like, the hell with that. We just go off the cuff.
Yeah, you don't want to be too rigid. You just gotta go with the flow where the conversation goes.
Yeah, right on. And that's actually one of the biggest things I've learned from the people in the Schmodown sphere is how to do the interview, right? So like Roxy and Harloff and them.
Keep it up. Fun. I'm sure you guys will find yourself nominated for a Schmodown award soon.
Oh, we're banking on it. We're trying. So where can everybody find you, Jeff?
At the Sneider, Twitter, Instagram, Cameo, and a Collider. And you can check out my movie blog at theinsnider.blogspot.com. That's just where I keep track of all the movies I see in a given year.
Right on. Daniel, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, just to reiterate, thank you again for coming on. This was super fun. And I can be found on Twitter at my handle down here at Avengers_SOTN. That's Schmoes of the North. And over on our Facebook page at Schmoes of the North, a Schmodown fan page, where I'm running some fantasy leagues and promoting this show mostly.
And you can find me at soda_the_saxman on Instagram and Twitter. You can find me here on Northern Consultations and also on our other show, Schmodown Night in Canada, where either me or Dan or any of the other two guys, we just break down the week in Schmodown. And you can also find me on my other channel, Get Sweaty, where I host Get Sweaty, where it's our top 5 show. We just go away with a topic, come back, and we discuss what our picks are. You can find me on Recapping the Past, where me and my friend Ben Rayner sit there and we review old sitcoms that we liked growing up. So right now we're in the midst of Saved by the Bell, which I'm having fun rewatching. Yeah, I'm in the middle of the Malibu Sands episodes where they're working at the beach club. And
I was in the Mark Paul Gosselaar fan club, and my teddy bear was named Preppy. So
right on, I respect that. I really do. And you can also, there's one other show I do over there called Shooting the Breeze, where me and Ben just sit down and we just talk to our friends in the sphere about whatever they want to talk about for an hour. And it's been some entertaining time. I've talked to everything from, of course, movies to existentialism while baked as a fucking cake, and cannibalism last week, which was like, okay, wide array.
Okay.
Yeah, the existentialism one, if you watch it, you can see my brain break a few times.
So, do you ever see Thought Crimes?
No, what is that?
Look up Thought Crimes, the cannibal cop. You can talk about that on your podcast. It's an HBO documentary. It should be pretty available.
Okay, yeah, you should be able to get it up here. I will definitely look into that.
All right.
And on that note, once again, thank you very much, Jeff, for joining us. I have been Soda.
Stay warm, fellas.
Yeah, you as well. And with that, we all will bid you adieu, and you all have a good evening.